Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Capital Interns. I'm your co-host, Rafi Dewan, and Capital Interns is essentially a podcast where we help bridge the gap between the professional and high school students, basically coming together and learning and exploring new careers on the personal life and personal journey. I'm going to hand it over to Dorina now.
Hey guys, my name is Dorina, your other co-host. Today's guest is quite unique. Currently a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT for short, in New York City, she has worked for Victoria's Secret Pink, has designed multiple lookbook portfolios on her website, launched a student fashion magazine in high school, and was the costume designer for her high school musical.
When I went to high school with her, she was like one of the smartest people I knew, and she helped me on all my math homework in grade 12. So let's introduce one of the most talented and hardworking people I personally know, Juliana Bui. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Thank you for being here. On today's episode, we will be talking about her journey exploring fashion and experience at FIT, her passion projects, and her experience working in the fashion industry. Juliana, what is fashion design at FIT, and what is the Knitwear Specialization?
So basically, I'm in my fourth year at FIT. I'm in fashion design, my BFA, and I'm specializing in knitwear specifically, which I learned just more about like the technical aspect of knitwear, and like all about the knit structures and the technology that goes into all of that to create the sweaters, not just hand knitting. And I also learned a lot about machine knitting as well. Where it's more manual, but it's still not like knitting by hand with two sticks, like you're probably more familiar with.
That's for sure.
So I'm learning a bit more than those YouTube videos are showing us for sure. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm really happy with the program that I chose.
Have you ever tried knitting with those little sticks? With the needles?
Yes, I have. We did that for a little bit last semester because with the whole pandemic, everything like had to move online super abruptly. So we had to take up hand knitting for a little bit, which was a bit difficult because a lot of us like had never really hand knit before. Like I had only crocheted a tiny bit when I was younger. So it was definitely a bit of a struggle, and it was definitely frustrating, but we only did a little bit.
What'd you guys make?
An ugly sweater.
I wish. That would have taken forever. But no, we just did like a couple small swatches of just some very basic stitches. They just treated us as
cool.
like little beginners. So it was nice to know for sure, but that's not what my whole specialization is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going over your specialization, like what are some of the courses that you're taking right now during your program?
So basically for fashion design, I take a few digital classes to learn more about like Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that. I take some construction classes, so I know how to make like actual garments. And then for knitwear, it's more about like knitting, like on the machines, like the Brother knitting machines. And then I also take some art classes where I'm like designing collections and thinking more about like developing like a full collection as opposed to just learning how to make like one or two, a handful of garments or so in a semester. So I get like a good mix of all of that. And for my knitwear specialization, which I technically only started in my sixth semester, we talk more by semester as opposed to like by year, which I think you guys do more. So for my sixth semester, that's when I started my specialization. And we just did more intense like machine knitting. And like for our collections, we did like a lot more knitwear. So we kind of like...
Right.
thought about, and our professors helped like us translate our ideas and then using like knit stitches and like that knowledge and that technical knowledge to just create like some more interesting pieces. And it was just a great way to like get a full scope of all of the knitwear stuff. But next semester we're doing a lot more like digital like software stuff, which is great because the pandemic, I can't go into class and all of that. So we're learning how to use Kaleido to like set up like the whole like knitwear program, so that you could like send that to a factory and like make the sweater and all of that stuff. And we're learning Stole, which like again it's a similar situation to Kaleido, but we have the machines at school so they can like spit out the swatch or the garment and stuff for us. It does take a few hours to knit sometimes,
That's so cool.
But yeah, so learning a lot.
This is like 3D printing for clothes. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm so excited to learn all of that for sure.
You also took some liberal arts courses too. What was your favorite course so far within liberal arts?
Yeah, so I'm in the honors program at my school, so I have to take a bunch of liberal arts, but also since I'm a SUNY school, they have some requirements as well. So I have a math in there and some English courses and stuff like that. But my favorite so far has definitely been the New York architecture class, just because I don't know much about like America in general, definitely don't know a ton about New York and like the history and stuff like that. So I wanted to learn a bit more about the city that I'm living in. So it was really great because it was a super chill class. There weren't like any exams or anything, which I really appreciated. So we just had to write a bunch of essays, and like every third class he like took us on a field trip, which was like amazing. And we walked.
Oh my
like,
god!
Yeah,
one of those
great.
courses.
Yeah.
Yo, did you go to like Manhattan and then you saw Empire State Building, and did you see like the Statue of Liberty and Brooklyn Bridge? Were like those are the types of places you've seen, or was it like something else?
She showed us more like stuff off the beaten path. Like we did some like obviously some important like historical stuff, but we didn't necessarily hit up all the tourist spots. I would say the most touristy spot that he brought us to, my professor, was like around the Rockefeller area. And we like learned more about like that kind of architecture and stuff, but he showed us like stuff from not all the boroughs, but almost all of them. And it was just really cool to get all of his expertise and just like understand more of the city that, you know, I'm walking around in every day.
Yeah, which one was your favorite borough?
I honestly have not explored a ton, but I live in Queens, which I need to explore some more. Brooklyn has like such a like it has like a nice vibe from like some of the areas that I've been to, but there is still so much more that I need to explore of New York. I know like for me, like sometimes I get really caught up in school and I get stressed out about that, and then I don't like go out to like explore as much as I should and discover like cool things in the city when I have that at my disposal. So I try to get better at that, like better management of my time and having that balance, but there's still so much more for me to see, so I'm sure, you know, my answer might change later too.
Did you see like did you go to Central Park and did you see like the Friends studio, like the original one in New York?
I actually haven't been. That's actually in Manhattan, like lower Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
But Central Park is also like super high up. But I've been to Central Park, but it's like it's massive, so I have not like seen all of it. It's low-key like 40 blocks by like 3 avenues or something like that. So it's really big, but it's like really nice and peaceful, and just a bit unfortunate that, you know, all the super tall high rises on Billionaires Row are, you know, casting shadows on, you know, the serenity of Central Park. But, you know.
How did you get into FIT? What was the application process like?
It was a lot different, I think, than a lot of like regular Ontario universities. I had to do a whole portfolio and basically had to draw a couple collections, mini little collections, and then also had to sew a few garments. So I think there were 3 projects total. The first one, we had to like pick a destination and a season and just like design a couple pieces that like could be interchangeable. And then we also had like another collection where you could do like whatever you wanted. It was like 4 figures, I think. So those are the drawing projects, and we had to have like all the little swatches and stuff to show that we know what fabrics we'd make the stuff in. And then, you know, like naming all the fabrics, and then also drawing a technical flat, because like it's not just about like that creativity. You need to be able to translate that to like a proper like clear
right,
like pattern later on. So that technical flat is like the beginning of that, to show like all the seams and the stitching and all of that important information that the factory would need to know. And then I sewed a couple items. The minimum I think is 2 pieces. I did 3 just because I was extremely worried that I wouldn't get in, and I had like nobody to talk to like kind of, you know, see,
guide you
just to like know more about like, yeah, exactly, and like with the whole portfolio process. So yeah, I made my prom dress because again, I was extremely nervous. It was a big undertaking, but it was so much fun. And then like I made like another like velvet jumpsuit kind of thing. And then I think I made like a shirt dress. You definitely don't need to make anything that extra. You can like totally get in with slightly more normal basic clothes, but it's definitely fun to show your creativity, and I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. Do you still have the outfits?
I do, but like looking back now, it's it's so wild how much like I learned within one semester or like 2 semesters. I'm like, there's so much I would have like changed in terms of like construction, and just I know so much more with it like over the few years I've learned.
Right.
So yeah, I still have
it already
but...
looks really good.
Thank you for
I remember
saying
seeing
that.
it was already really good in the first place. And then she keeps critiquing it. SMH.
Thanks
Classic
for saying
Juliana.
that.
That's what being an artist is. Criticizing your own work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement.
I knew that you applied to, I think it was health science at the time. Were there any other programs you applied in grade 12? Can you give a little bit spiel as to like why you also applied to more so the bio field? And what made you choose fashion in the end result of that?
So for me, I've always like really wanted to do fashion, but you know, living in Ottawa, it's not a very fashion, like there aren't a lot of opportunities for fashion. So I never thought it was a possibility at all. And I thought it was just like a hobby, and that's kind of like what I was told growing up as well. Like any like creative field was like better off as a hobby as opposed to a career. Just because I think that a lot of people too, they have the misconception that, you know, anything creative is like on the same level as like wanting to like be an actor or a singer. It's super uncertain and all that, but it's really not that, especially like if it's a design job, like it can be 9 to 5 and it can be like pretty stable and all of that. But yeah, so I didn't think it was like a possible viable career path at all until I was like 12 and I learned about FIT. I read about it in some book or something, and I looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, you can like go to school for this and like become a fashion designer, and that was like a whole thing. So I tried to convince my parents from 12 years old, which sounds ridiculously young now. Yeah. So yeah, I started my campaign, and obviously they were like very like wary of it and very hesitant to like encourage that of me. So yeah, I just like worked really hard to make like throughout high school to dabble into fashion whatever way I could to show them. But sorry, I'm kind of straying from your question, but I only applied to FIT for fashion design just because it was mainly like because of the influence of my parents. They wanted me to only go to New York to study fashion, or else like stay in Canada and do something more like safe and stable. I admit that I did not give my plan B very much thought because I was just in denial. I didn't want to think of it as a possibility for me. So I would definitely suggest doing more research than I did, but I applied to like Western MedSci, and that was like my main backup plan. But I also applied, I think, to health sciences at Ottawa U, and like neuroscience in Toronto. So those are my other options. But in the end, I picked FIT because like that's like what I wanted to do. That was my main passion. And then after like my parents had seen like the stuff I did in high school, they felt like more at ease and more comfortable with like me pursuing fashion. So yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah, especially with like university stress as well within like any program, because you're taking like so many courses at once, right? I feel like you should be doing something that you'd enjoy rather than just like hating yourself for like the next few years until you actually get into your job.
Yeah, because it's like literally the next like 4 or 5 years of your life, right? Gotta pick something that you're interested in.
Yeah, and then you're working for like 40 something years after too, so.
Exactly. Do you have any tips for students applying to programs outside of Canada, or, you know, those who don't come from a target school, on how to stand out during the application process?
So in America, they do, they like make you write a couple essays to help you stand out. And that's like a whole situation that I think that some Ontario students might not be super familiar with, because I think only a few programs ask that. But that is definitely like a good way to help you stand out, because you get to like tell your story, and it's like a personal essay. So you can like talk about like, you can show your passion and just talk about your journey and why you want to go to the school. And craft it obviously in a slightly more artistic way, but that's like basically what you're trying to get through, so that helps a lot. And I think in high school, like if you're interested in like any kind of creative field, or just honestly if you're interested in anything, you should try to find as many opportunities or create like as many opportunities as you can to make yourself stand out. Because like for me, like fashion, that wasn't really, we didn't have like an Ottawa fashion week that was like I could volunteer at or anything like that. So I tried to get involved like in my school musical productions. Like my friends were all in it. They were all on stage, but there was an opening for the costume design department. So I got in on that and like really got a chance to like learn how to tell a story through clothing and really like work on a huge scale like that, even if it was just in high school, you know. And I got a chance to sew so much too, which was really great for me to get more practice at that. And then I had like my fashion magazine that I started with my friends. It was a school club and that was really fun. So I got a chance to do some like more like styling and just like a bit of photography and like that kind of, and like editing and stuff like that too, to create like a magazine and like work with like a big group of people. And I also like worked retail at Zara to get like another aspect of fashion. So I really immersed myself in whatever way I could, because like I didn't have any courses I could take to like, if I was interested in computer science, I could take a computer science course, but there was like one fashion course online or something in the OCTSB like curriculum. So not many options for me. So I really had to like work hard to try to find them. So I think that anyone like wanting to do anything creative or anything that's not as accessible in Ottawa, maybe like you just have to like go after what you want and just try to find or create the opportunities that you need. Yeah,
right, exactly. I feel like you created a lot of your opportunities and it turned out really great. You know, for someone, let's say for a high schooler who's considering fashion as a career, what do you think are some skills they could work on as a high schooler that would help them?
Definitely, if you're earlier on in your high school career and you have a chance to try to sneak into your musical or like play whatever production that your school is doing, I would really recommend like working with costume design, because even if you do like end up borrowing a lot of the clothes from like a theater like company close by, or using just like the costumes that your school has, you get a chance to work a lot with clothes and you'll probably end up sewing something. So that is really helpful because you're like really like working with a big team, which like we don't actually do a lot in school, but we do a lot in the industry, obviously. So it's really important to know like that stuff and be able to work well with a team to like towards one common goal. And also like learning how to sew is very important. So you don't need to be an expert or anything. I remember like being so freaked out in high school because I started sewing a bit later than some people. I maybe started at like 15. My mom like taught me like very basic like hand sewing when I was a kid, but nothing super intense. And I'd watch like Gossip Girl and like Little J had like she'd been sewing since she was like 8, and I was like, oh my god, I've missed out on like 7 years. But that is not something you need to stress about at all. But learning how to sew is important. So I took a course on Saturdays at Algonquin to learn like the correct ways to like sew and like all the seam finishes and stuff. So just like a very basic course, but that helped me a lot because I like structure and I like learning that way instead of just teaching myself. I find that I just am more productive that way. So that helped me too. And just like checking out Fashion Week like on Vogue Runway and just being really, up to date and just trying to learn, about the industry that you like want to work in. Obviously, again, you don't need to be any kind of expert, but if you're passionate about it, you'd like want to be more curious and just try to learn more. So that's what I would suggest.
Was the course that you went at Algonquin like paid, or is it free to like go to?
I had to pay for it. It was a few $100s, so not too terrible, but it was definitely a cost. I think that you could also like now with like so many YouTube videos, you could also like try to follow that, because I learned like some pretty basic things. The only thing that might have been like slightly more difficult to follow over videos, they showed me how to like sew a shirt by the end of it, but it was a pretty basic like tunics. So yeah, if like you don't want to spend the money, you can totally learn it online too, if that works better. So yeah,
definitely. I personally attended like every single musical at Earl of March, and I never missed a single one, and I went to 3 of the opening nights. I remember that, except for the last one, because I think I had a test that day or something like that. But what I loved about the musicals for like the last 2 years was the costume design.
Thank you.
Because I felt so immersed like in the musical, because it actually did feel very real. And the many costumes that were designed by you and your other friends, right? And I've seen some of the most beautiful pieces on stage. What was it like being like a costume designer for the school production?
It was a really, really great experience because I I was friends with a bunch of people who were actors on stage, and it seemed like a really great, like, just a great experience for them. So I kind of wanted to get it on it in whatever way I can. So I can't sing, I can't dance. So I did what I thought I could do best, which is costume design. And the first year is Legally Blonde, and it was just, there were a lot of costumes. If anyone's seen the movie or the musical, like the MTV like recording of it, there are so many costumes.
How many were there?
I think there were like 120 or something like that.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And Elle, the main character, she had like 12 costumes I think that year, and I made like maybe half of them. But it was really great because for costume design, you have to think a lot about like functionality and like mobility, because they're dancing around and all of that. And then she also had a bunch of quick changes on stage, so like figuring out how to make that work, like we had to put magnets at the back of the dress so she could like rip it off really quickly. So that was like a whole thing. So it was like really great because there are so many challenges, and you get to really practice like figuring out how to make those work.
Did you actually like search this up of how actors like switch costumes like really quickly on stage, or like did you just think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna use magnets?
No, that one I got from them because they had like some behind the scenes videos, so I watched those. And yeah, they mentioned that there were magnets, and I just kind of tried to make it work into the dress, and it did. And it was very satisfying to see it all come together.
Yeah.
And that's like the main thing for me for like musical production. Like all of my friends, I think they can say the same thing. Like when you see the full thing together, it's just like amazing to see how everyone's efforts like created this like amazing show that people are watching and are being entertained by. So Definitely. It was a really, really great experience.
Definitely.
I wish I was there. Like you're talking about it and talking about how you made all those costumes. Honestly, like I wish I was there watching you handle all of those situations, because I'm pretty sure there was like things that just come out of nowhere, right? Where you just have to sew
definitely.
on the spot or fix something. Oh,
yeah, like
crazy.
Buttons pop and stuff like that.
I would definitely love to be part of a musical. I think I did that when I was like back in elementary school. We would have plays and I would participate on the dance team. So it was really cool. And what was most fun about it is being backstage and seeing like how everything kind of works together, because when you're on stage you see the final production, which is nice, but being backstage there's so much to see all the time. It was really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's very like hectic and like lots of energy.
Yeah, lots of
energy.
It's
awesome. Yeah
I was wondering, like, Juliana, what did you specifically do in that role, and like how was like the backstage of everything being like chaos? Like I want to know a little bit more about the backstage part.
Definitely like my backstage experience is a lot more chill compared to some other people's who, actors having to like rip like their costumes off and like put on new ones, stuff like that. But for me, I just was armed like with like a little sewing kit and like spare buttons and threads and all that stuff just in case anything happened. But for Legally Blonde, we had so many outfit changes, I kind of had to be around a lot to make sure I had like the next outfit ready to put on whenever somebody came back and stuff like that. And some of the costumes were a bit more fussy, so I just had to be there to make sure that everyone like looked nice and a collar wasn't popped the wrong way or anything like that. So for Legally Blonde, it was like there was just a lot more to do backstage. But for Edwin Drood, which was the other musical that I helped with, there were pretty much everyone had like one costume, so that I just kind of could chill. And if something did happen, like there was one time, I think opening night or maybe the second night, like the seam of a pair of pants that I made like just kind of like ripped through the first number. So nothing was seen on stage, like he could hide it because it was like he had like a long coat over top, but I had to like fix that right away.
How did you fix that?
I just had to hand sew it like really tightly together.
Like that.
But yeah, things happen all the time, so you just have to be prepared. And it's like you have to be really organized too to make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on stage and like what the next number is so you can get ready. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Did you have volunteers helping you out, or was it just you?
It was mainly me, but I had a few wonderful friends who were helping as well. They helped like sew and all that, but they were also actors, so they were busy with their own thing. So yeah, they they helped me like with talking to some of the actors and stuff. Like I was at most of the rehearsals, but sometimes if I like had to miss something, they'd be able to like pass on any messages or clothes or whatever it was I needed. But yeah, they helped us like sewing, you know, like for Legally Blonde's like 30 like cheerleader skirts and stuff like that, and helped like keep things organized. They were amazing. I love them so much because they helped like I'm amazed that they were able to like juggle both roles for sure.
Right. You know, how was the second time different from the first time you were costume designer?
I knew to be like way more organized, which was so helpful because for that time we borrowed a lot of clothes from a theater academy close by, and so I had to like photograph all the clothes to make sure that, and then I gave them names and everything just to like catalog everything and make sure that I knew like what clothes were coming from where for which outfit for which character and all that stuff, because for the first production I did like misplace like one or two items, so obviously that is like really not good. So I knew I needed to really be on top of everything for the second one. So I took lots and lots of pictures, and I had like a whole binder with all of that stuff. But it was mainly organization, and also after doing it the first time and having, I feel like it was a much more difficult task the first time just because there were so many costumes. The second time it was a lot better because I could focus more on it was like the piece was in the 1870s, I think, so there were lots of like old historical kind of like gowns, so I could like focus on making those, and that was like really great to learn how to like, you know, make a bustle work and sew that and like all that fun stuff. And like we had like a blue dress that like I could put on sometimes that I felt like Cinderella, so it was really fun.
Yeah, I saw that dress, a picture of it, and it is absolutely stunning. I love it. I love the color. I love how it was designed. You are so talented.
Yeah.
I know like the audience can't tell right now, but Juliana is very, very talented.
Yeah, like I remember Julia, who was the actress for Mystery of Edmund Drood, who wore that. I remember when I saw her on stage, I'm like, whoa, she actually looks like Cinderella. I was like so amazed of like how that costume like suited her. Like everything looked so great. I was like literally I think that was my favorite costume out of all the musicals that you designed. Like I think that one was the most memorable for me. Yeah, it was so much fun making those gowns, and like at that point in like my life, career, all that, I really thought I wanted to like make dresses for the rest of my life, like big like gowns like that. So it was so much fun for me to get a chance to do that for sure.
Right. And you also did the fashion magazine that you talked about earlier. How did that turn out? How'd you guys start it, and how far did it go?
It was really fun. At first, like, some people at like, you know, at club fair and stuff, they kind of like made fun of it because it was like kind of a new like girly, I guess, idea and all of that. So it was met with a bit of a mixed response at first. But I had some really great friends who were like really into fashion, but there wasn't really any kind of opportunity for that at my school. So it was great to like get a group of people together and like, you know, do some photo shoots and all that fun stuff. And then we also dabbled into like some lifestyle stuff, so like recipes and some DIYs and stuff like that. And I had like some friends like write some articles too, so it was really fun to like, you know, exercise the creative juices in a different way and like see fashion from a different angle as well, you know, and trying to get immersed in that as much as I could as, you know, a 15-16-year-old. So it was a really great experience. Yeah.
How many did you release? Like, how many magazines?
I think like that club ran for 3 years, and I think we did. Yeah, it was good. I think that we did just under 6, maybe. I don't really remember properly, but we were trying to do like one per season, but sometimes, you know, things got busy, so we did like a spring summer instead of just spring and then summer. But yeah, it was really great because then we like printed some of them too, so it was nice to have a physical copy in addition to the online one that was like more accessible to everyone. So it was like for me, like for fashion design and just like in the creative like sphere, I really like how at the end of like a big project there's like a tangible item that I can hold, or like just like some very sleek like complete product, so that just like makes the whole process really satisfying for me.
I honestly thought at first, because like I was thinking like it'd be like a kind of like a scrapbook thing. That's why like a lot of people were making memes and everything of it. But then once the first copy came out, and then I looked at it, and I remembered like I think it was Nick Newman and Graham and all of them. They were actually really excited. Like, yo, we should join in on this. Like, I remember they joined in later on because like you did such a good job on like making it like so professional too. Because it looked better than the yearbook. I'm sorry, yearbook committee, don't hate on me, but it did look better than the yearbook that year, and I was really impressed by like your design skills with Photoshop and like the other programs you use. It was actually like, in my opinion, I think that magazine by itself was better than like anything I've seen in like media arts class. And you didn't even take media arts, I think, right?
No, I didn't take it.
Yeah, like it was that good. I like props to you on that.
Thanks.
I really want to see that. Do you still have digital copies of it?
Yeah, it's theleomag.blogspot.com, I think. It's still up, yeah, but this is from like, it was from a while ago, so very old content, but it was fun to do like at the time, and it was so great to like, you know, be kind of weird and like do photo shoots at school and stuff like that, like after school was over, and there'd be like random like sports teams like, you know, practicing in the field, and then they'd see us like taking photos and they're like, what are they doing? But it was a really fun time for all of us, and like kind of helps us get out of our shells too a little bit, because, you know,
we'll post a link in the description to that.
Yeah, honestly,
it was a good magazine. I liked it.
Thank you.
You also worked at retail at Zara, like you mentioned before. Did you find that experience useful for fashion design?
Yeah, I think it's really important for anyone who wants to be in fashion to work retail, at least for a little bit, just to see what like the product is like at the end of the, you know, whole process, because like for fashion design, obviously we're, you know, creating it, so it's it's like so behind the scenes, but it's important for us to see like, you know, how customers are interacting with the clothes and like what they actually like want to buy, and understand a bit more of that like business aspect of it, obviously from a very like shallow end, but it's still a really great experience to, you know, be able to be immersed in fashion in a different way, and, you know, earn some money as well on the side, which always helps, and, you know, dealing with customers and all of that fun stuff. So it's really important to, you know, I think to have any kind of like job in high school that deals with customer service, just to teach you some of those life skills too. And like over the summer, I worked full-time one summer, and I got the assistant managers like let me kind of do a little bit of merchandising and just kind of seeing like the sales reports and stuff like that, and, you know, placing items in the store according to those sales reports. So it was really great to get some of that experience too. So yeah, I think it's really important.
I was actually wondering, do you feel that like any fashion designer, like aspiring fashion designer in high school, should like have some retail experience first before making the decision to go into fashion?
I think it's definitely helpful, just because like in Canada in general, I think maybe Toronto and maybe Montreal have like some more opportunities than Ottawa does, but there aren't many options to explore fashion in high school. And I think that, you know, anything that you can put on your resume is a good thing too, but also like you had mentioned, I think it's a good idea to kind of see what that part of fashion is like, and see if that's something you like want to do with your life too. So yeah, I think it's one of the few ways that you can explore fashion in high school, so it's an opportunity that you should grab.
So I know you as the busiest person back in high school, in grade 11 and grade 12 and in grade 10 too. Like, you're always so active and busy, while like I was like, you know, goofing off playing games at home. But like, how the hell do you manage your time, and how do you keep yourself so organized? Because like I remember like going, like when you were studying math, I remember that you had all these notes and they were so beautifully laid out. You timetabled everything, like your whole day. Like, I actually took so much inspiration from that. So I want you to explain a little bit more about your time management process and your organization process for your day.
Thanks for saying that. But for me, like, I've always been obsessed with agendas. Like, I've gone through phases where, you know, I had like a really thick one, which like made me feel very like intense, and I liked that feeling. But Yeah, no, for me, like, it's all about writing everything down in an agenda. Maybe like there's a digital version that works better for some people, but for me, I like writing it down and being able to like consult like the monthly calendar sometimes, to like plan out projects and whatever. But for me, like writing all the stuff I need to do down, all like the homework that I have due, all the assignments, and then like if you have like different like a lot of different like categories to juggle, I guess, in your life, like extracurriculars, school and work, and maybe like working out, you want to put that in your agenda or something too. I think it's important to color code just so you can have like a better sense of what your day is going to be like. And for me, yeah, like you mentioned, I like putting like what time to do things, but I think for me, in high school and for like a little bit of university, you kind of try to stretch yourself too thin and overestimate how much you can accomplish in a small amount of time. So I think being generous with yourself, and giving yourself more time to finish tasks, just helps a lot with your productivity and your motivation and, keeping your morale up. So be kind to yourself, but like write everything down. I think that helps a lot to organize. But for me, notes for fashion design it's a little bit different than your area, I'm sure. I don't have a ton of like traditional lectures. I take like anywhere from like 6 to 8 classes a semester, and only some of them are lecture based. The other ones, they're like the fashion design apparel classes. Those are
hands-on.
Yeah, they're hands-on. So the professor will like have us all around a table or a knitting machine, whatever, and she'll demo whatever technique that we're learning that day. And usually people have a lot of like their phones out just to be able to capture like, how a professor is like draping something, how she's knitting something or setting up a machine, whatever. So people focus on that too. And it's like important, sometimes to just take pictures so you know what your work is supposed to look like. And then our notes are like more step by step. It's like, first you need to do this to your muslin, you need to draw this line and this line. So it's way easier for me to like organize my notes, compared to in high school where, we had to like, it was just like a lot more heavy with the information, I suppose. Because like for me, like it's super sequential in university, so it's super easy to take notes that way. But for my lecture-based classes, I'll color code, like I'll highlight some important like words or like concepts or anything like that. But for me, I like to like underline them because I feel like highlighting, I don't read the word as well, like when I like gloss over, I don't know, I liked underlining. I saw that tip somewhere and I kind of stuck with it. But yeah, I've been lucky that my professors, like for my more heavy lecture-based classes, they're like really organized with their lectures, so it's easy to take notes. But yeah, don't like focus too much on making them pretty, just make them neat, legible, and like organized. I think that's like what's important.
Perfect, that's really great advice.
Wait, I was gonna ask something. Oh yeah, if you don't go to class for one day, it's like you miss out on a lot because it's all hands-on, right? Did you ever miss class?
Yeah, so I definitely missed like a couple, but for me, like I go to a SUNY school and they're super strict with class attendance. I usually have a class like once a week, and they're like 3 to 4 hour classes. And if you miss more than 2, it's usually 1 grade deduction. So you go from an A to a B, which is really rough, which really just reinforces the importance of attending class. So yeah, that's a big thing that I have to do, but also you're paying for school. You're probably paying a lot for school.
Exactly.
So I think it's important to attend school, and not waste your money.
Make your money
exactly.
worth.
So yeah, for me, like I miss a lot, and it's hard to like, especially if it's a more hands-on class, to kind of like get notes from people, because it's just not the same. It's not like people are like, some professors don't like being videotaped, so sometimes you only get like photos and stuff too. So it's just hard to kind of like piece all of that together after the fact. So attending class is definitely extremely important.
Yep, it's not about being cool by skipping class anymore. You actually pay for that. Might as well go. Tell us about the lifestyle in New York City. How has it been different from small city Ottawa?
For me, I thankfully didn't feel like a crazy like adjustment. It was honestly kind of a blur, like that whole transition. But it's definitely a lot more fast paced. But what I really like is since everyone lives on top of each other in New York, everything is super close. So I can walk, to the grocery store and like and I don't need to like hop on the subway to get everywhere I need to be,
must be nice.
A lot of things are in walking distance, so it's really great, compared to having to take the bus to go everywhere in Ottawa. So yeah, it's really awesome. I love how fast-paced the city is, and whenever I do have to hop on the subway, it's really great how it's functional and fast and
not Canada transportation.
Yeah, my friend would have to take a bus for an hour to get from one side of Canada to the other, and that's just kind of ridiculous. So it's much faster in New York, which is really great. There's lots of great food, which is amazing. Not cheap all the time, but
so jealous.
So many options, which is amazing. I love that part so much.
What's your favorite cuisine?
Oh gosh. It's funny because in high school I wasn't my parents would always cook traditional Vietnamese meals and stuff, but whenever I went out with my friends I usually ate different cuisine. But definitely being away from family made me a bit homesick for sure, so I just dove straight into Asian food and have explored all of that. So it's that I think Asian is probably my favorite, but I can't tell you specifically which country because I love a lot of it.
All right, Juliana, bit of a personal question, but how much do you spend on food?
Too much. Too much. Yeah, that's a big thing in New York because there's so much good food. So people definitely get caught up with eating out all the time. So, if any of you guys are planning to go study abroad or just study away from home, I think it's definitely a good idea to learn how to cook and try to, meal prep as much as you can, especially when it gets stressful with finals and all of that too, having a nice home cooked meal definitely helps. And also you don't want to be spending hundreds of dollars on eating out. So yeah, definitely being smart with your money is important because a big city like New York, and I'm sure Toronto and any of those other big Canadian cities too, you can definitely get carried away with that.
Did you know how to cook before you got to New York?
Yeah, my mom was always very adamant about teaching us. I was in the kitchen since I was 3, and she had me peel quail eggs, and then they ended up obviously destroyed because a 3-year-old was peeling the shells off of quail eggs. But yeah, she's always I've always been her little sous chef. And helping out in the kitchen and trying to learn and stuff like that, just because she thought it was always really important to know that because it's a life skill,
It
and
really is.
Yeah, and she always wanted my brother to learn as well, so none of that sexist stuff. She definitely made sure that we both knew how to take care of ourselves.
Iron lady.
Yeah, it was definitely very helpful, but then it was so sweet when after she dropped me off to university, she was missing me too, so she wrote up 15 basic recipes for me and just made me a little recipe book so I could consult whenever I wanted to make anything, any traditional Vietnamese food.
That's cute. My mom made one for me too, that she organized it all in a binder and printed it out. Yeah, I was really grateful for it because I didn't know how to
Irina still doesn't know how to cook.
I still don't know how to cook. My brother cooks better than me. That's a fact.
So, more about New York. Where are your favorite spots?
I love this little place called Mud Spot for coffee. It's in the East Village, which is a really cool area. So love that coffee. I've taken so many friends there, and it's really bad because I went through a phase where I was obsessed with Timothée Chalamet, and that was his favorite coffee spot. So I kind of prefaced my taking my friends to those places with that, and they were skeptical because they were are you just going there because you're a fan of his? And I'm no, the coffee is really good and the brunch is so good. And almost everyone I've been with, they've picked up a bag of coffee or something, so after they left. So mission accomplished for me.
We should have a meme with you had the coffee shop, and then it's I know a spot.
Yeah.
It'd be Juliana's I know a spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that coffee shop, but honestly I don't drink a ton of coffee. I try to lay off on the caffeine when I'm not super stressed. But there's this Thai place called Laut, Laut. It technically has a Michelin star, but it's not crazy priced at all, which is so great. It's pretty reasonable. for New York anyway, I guess. But yeah, that place has amazing like Thai, Singaporean, and Malaysian food. And I've taken a bunch of friends there too. And I love that place. But yeah, and like a very basic Magnolia's Bakery is really solid for their banana pudding. So yeah, those are a few of my favorites.
This is all sounding so yummy. I wish I could eat it.
It's delicious, yeah.
What was it like, moving to New York as a student with no parents? Suddenly you're in this new city, new country. How did that feel?
Thankfully, New York is like pretty close to Ottawa, so it didn't feel like super, super far away. And I had visited a few times. I took like a little mini 4-day workshop at FIT when I was 15, I think, just to get like a better feel for the school and the city. But I'd never spent like, months there or like weeks there or anything like that. So it was definitely like a bit of a transition to be in a big city, but thankfully I knew my roommate going into it because like when we all got accepted, there was a Facebook group that was made and like we found each other on there, and her dad like happened to do some work in like arenas like in Ottawa, so he came to like her whole family came to visit, so I like visit me in Ottawa, I mean. So I got to meet her and stuff, and we'd been texting like nonstop since we both got our acceptance letters, so it was nice to like know one person there before going in. And obviously like with the Facebook group, I had reached out to some other like international students as well, so it was really great to like have those like little connections going into FIT because I don't have any family in the States, so it was definitely like my parents were really worried about me being all by myself. But yeah, it was just, it's good to like talk to people beforehand and just try to maybe be more outgoing than you feel like, everyone's in the same boat. So it was good to like go to all the orientation events and meet people and stuff like that, and just try to like, meet your neighbors and all that stuff too. So definitely like trying to get to know people and building your little support network far away from home was important for me, being so far away. But yeah, and then also trying to juggle like having to do all of your own laundry, all of your own cooking, cleaning, and all of that without like any help was a bit of an adjustment. Like, because for me, like whenever I was stressed with school, like finals or anything like that in high school, I always had my parents, bring me a nice home cooked meal if I needed it without like having to do it all myself. So that was an adjustment to like learn more, to just be better at time management and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot like learning to live on your own, I guess. But if you've been doing, you've been living for so many years already, so it wasn't you have the experience, it's gonna be fine.
Been alive for 18 years, I can do this.
Yeah.
What about FIT? What was the culture like at the university there?
So basically, it's really not a traditional campus at all. So like this, they always say like New York City is like your campus. So it doesn't have like, you don't feel like you're closed off in a little like bubble in the middle of nowhere, like where it's all uni students. So it was definitely like different, but my school is really small. It's pretty much only one block. So everything that I needed was like there, but we didn't have like big parties or anything like that because like it's a dry campus, and the legal drinking age in the US is also much higher than in Canada, so like just that whole situation is like it's a different vibe, and there isn't as much of a community, I would say, like not as much like school spirit and all of that fun stuff. Like no people aren't going to like football games, so that's like a bit different. So it can, if you like didn't like reach out to a lot of people or don't know a lot of people, you can feel like a bit more lost because there aren't like those standard events that you could like go to, I suppose. There are different events, but like not the traditional typical university stuff. So that's definitely an adjustment. And like people don't mix too much in between the different like programs, which is a bit different. I think the business school, they interact a bit more fluidly than in the design school, but a lot of my friends like are all just like fashion design kids too. But thankfully for me, like I was in the Presidential Scholars Program, so I met like different people through there, which is nice. It's always nice to have like a diverse group of friends with doing different things, so you can like learn from them and just all that stuff. So yeah, the culture, It's different from a regular university, that's for sure. But I don't think that if you like put yourself out there, you can definitely succeed.
Did your perspective on fashion change before going into FIT? And was it different once you started to, when you're enrolled in your program and you actually start to learn the material? What were some of those differences you faced?
For me, like after doing like musical and everything and knowing all the hard work that went into it, even after that, like I felt like I still thought that fashion was like a super glamorous industry and everything, but it's really not. It's a lot of hard work and it doesn't look pretty until the end. So that was definitely like a big thing that changed for me. And like it made me value clothes like so much more, just because I knew, like after making them, I'm just like, why is this item being charged? Why is this item only costing $15 when, it's taking more than an hour to make? So that like kind of made me reflect a lot and like appreciate clothes a lot more and just appreciate like art a lot more, because obviously things take a lot more time than you think. And I feel like a lot of times in creative industries, people don't really appreciate your work and they think it's fun, it's a hobby, you can do this for me for free, you're just helping out a friend, stuff like that. And that can be a bummer for sure. And I think that it's important for us to like know our worth so that we can, still make money and all of that. So that was something that I learned a lot and I saw a lot through my like years of school so far. And also like going in, like I mentioned like earlier, I wanted to make dresses for like the rest of my life. I thought that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to make like pretty ball gowns, that people like wore on red carpets and stuff. And then, I learned so much more about the different like areas and fields in fashion. Everything from like mass market to like all the different specializations that FIT offers, which is sportswear, like regular ready to wear, and then children's wear, intimate apparel, knitwear. So like there are lots of options for us. And I didn't know about them until I started going to school and like learning more about the different classes that showed us, like how to make a tech pack, which is what the documents that you send to a factory to say like, okay, I need like this much of this fabric to make that, and like with all the flats and like all the little trims and the yarn, the thread and all of that stuff. So it's like a lot of information. But just learning more about like stuff like that, and just when I opened my eyes more to like all the different parts of the industry through like my internships, just talking to professors, because for us like class sizes are so small, it's like 25 students max, but it's usually much less. So we can really talk to our professors a lot, really get a more like intimate relationship, I guess, and ask them more about their like experience and all of that stuff. So it just opened my eyes to like all the different possibilities, because at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I'm definitely not gonna learn knitwear. I'm just gonna be knitting, like hand knitting. Like, why would I want to learn that? But then I learned that I found out that program, you really learn a whole new skill set that you don't learn with the wovens that we are taught to use in our associate degree. Because FIT is like split up. You do your associates and then your bachelor's, both 2-year programs. But it's cool because you could like switch degrees halfway through essentially. But so gave me a whole new skill set, which I thought would be a great benefit to have in combination with what I did during my associate.
Oh, this is really cool because, listening to you talk about the different streams in fashion and the different options that you have, it's like I have newfound respect for when I see a piece of clothing, like the final result, and kind of think back to all the hard work that went into it. So that's really cool. Other than your extracurriculars, you've also done some internships in this industry. You worked at Marchesa, Victoria's Secret Pink, Faviana, and so was couture design at Marchesa your first internship? Like, how was your experience with your first job in the fashion industry?
I was so excited to start that one because I remember, I'd always loved that brand from when I was younger. And watching, I think it was Crazy Rich Asians the summer before that. Yeah. They designed the dress that Rachel wore to the wedding, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be interning at the place that made that. Yeah. So I was really excited for sure. And again, like I thought I was going to make like ball gowns for the rest of my life. So that like fit perfectly into what I thought I wanted to do at the time. So it was a really great experience to get like exposure to that and like working for the first time and seeing how people like are, you know, putting together ideas and like what discussions they're having and all of that fun stuff. But it was like a lot of grunt work, you know, like hand embroidering, like hand sewing little like embroideries onto tulle and all of that, and all these big dresses, which took a lot of time for sure. So I did a lot of that and like copying patterns and stuff. And I drew some flats for them too, because they had like, you know, tech packs as well. So yeah, it was a really great first exposure, and it was like really exciting when, you know, they had fittings and all that. But I didn't really get a chance to like sit in on the meetings or anything. So yeah, it was a really great first experience and first exposure to the industry for sure.
Right, for sure.
I didn't get to delve as deep as I have been able to like through more experience.
Yeah, you were just starting out, right? What are flats?
A technical flat, basically, it's just a really like, I guess you could say like a watered down drawing. It's kind of like a blueprint, I guess, of the garment, just usually a front and back flat, just to show like all the different seams of the garment, and then like all the stitching and stuff like that, so the factory gets like a very clear idea of what the garment it is that they're making. And it's like really important to get that flat right, because the factory's just going to follow that. Sometimes they might ignore the measurements that you give, so you have to make sure everything's like really proportionate, or else something might like be kind of off. So yeah, those are really important drawings.
What about VS Bank? That's a big brand. How was the experience there?
Yeah, it was definitely completely different from the Marchesa experience, just because it is like a massive company. You know, like I walk into the building and it takes up like 15 floors, you know, just for pink or something.
Wow.
I think maybe like 12, something like that. And yeah, and Victoria's Secret's like on the other side. So it was like it was a completely different experience. I had like my own cubicle for once. That was very exciting.
I mean, I can agree. As an intern, that's the best feeling.
Yeah, having your own desk and everything. Yeah, that was really great. And I really got to do more like digital stuff, just because since the company is so big and all of that, a lot of the stuff was digitized. So it was really important for me to have that knowledge in addition to the more hands-on stuff as well. So that's kind of like how I like decided like which internships I kind of wanted to do and what like areas I wanted to explore before I graduate. But it was really great. I got to like design like a little mini collection for them at the end as a part of my intern project, you know, like going off of a previous season and trying to update that, and doing like a lot of market research, which I did throughout the internship, just to be aware of, you know, the trends coming up in the next couple seasons, and like what competitors are up to and stuff like that. Just really being aware of the market was really important. And yeah, it was super fun to design that. And then I also got to sit in on a bunch of meetings, which was really great, because I didn't really have a lot of experience with that. And even though I don't have a ton to contribute, obviously, just as an intern, especially part-time, since I have to, you know, go to school as well, it was really great to see like what kind of decisions were being made and what the reasons were behind it. Like, you know, like there can be a whole meeting like for like half an hour talking about like the placement of some logos, you know, and it might seem
so
like
much detail.
Yeah, it might seem like a really small thing, but when you look at the garment, you're like, okay, no, I get it. Like this is a really important like decision that we all have to agree on. So yeah, it was just a really great experience, and I really enjoyed my time there.
What was the biggest challenge, or what were some of the biggest challenges? And there's probably multiple in fashion, but like when working there.
I think with all of the stuff with sustainability and ethics and everything, I don't know how it is with you guys, but we have like, since the fashion industry is like pretty famous, I guess, like there's like a lot of like press and stuff about it, and we have like a lot of like news and information that we know about companies, and it's just always talked about on like a larger scale. It's tricky with wanting to follow like your own personal values and like juggling what like a company might be doing. Like that's a constant decision that, you know, like people I guess have to decide, and like including money and stuff in that too, because like the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world. I think it's like the second one or something really insane like that. So It's tough with the way things are, but I think like my generation of designers and the new designers right now who've just like graduated and stuff, they're trying to create just like a more sustainable industry in terms of, you know, not like spitting out 6 collections a year or something crazy like that, because then the quality goes down and like people are working so hard to like create all of these collections of clothing that we don't really need, you know, especially with the pandemic now, you can see. Yeah, and then so there's like that part, and then just using more sustainable materials, making sure like the workers in factories are being treated properly too, having that full transparency. People, like consumers are smarter now too, and they're more aware of all of these things. So I think that now like a lot of companies are trying to, you know, work to be better and stuff like that. So that's just something that I guess that we all have to consider when we like want. And it's like it's tough because like all companies are guilty of something, obviously. So like it's just something you have to think about sometimes. But yeah, it can be kind of a lot.
I relate to software a lot because like when you hear like the big tech companies about stealing data, it's the same exact thing. Like there's always like some sort of toxicity that goes on within each of these companies. So I totally get that, and I think I like that's why there's like just so many advocates now for like even software standards for how companies actually use your data and actually like giving you the option to consent for them to actually use it in the proper way. Yeah, so I definitely understand what you're coming from. That there's probably more standards for fashion. More on a positive note, what was your favorite part about working there?
Like I grew up like watching the Victoria's Secret like fashion shows, which sounds kind of strange,
no.
but like
it was
just really good. Yeah, like it was a big part of my childhood, so it was like a really cool moment for me to be like able to work there and like have that experience. So yeah, it was really fun. I honestly sound super cheesy, but like I learned so much from the whole thing, because this was also the first time I was like really able to be creative as well and have more of a say like in decision, well, not really like I guess like fake decisions for like, you know, the intern project, but having a chance to design for a company and like really think and like work with my manager to kind of like figure out like, okay, what is best for the customer, because it's mass market, which is a lot different from what we're doing in school, where we can design for whatever we want, whatever audience we want. We don't have to really think about money like ever, you know, until we're actually like making the garments, but we don't have to think like too much in a business sense, which I think can kind of hinder some people if they don't get industry experience before graduating, because it's a completely different world. Even like higher up, I mean like more high-end stuff, you have to be able to sell or else there's no business. It's a business at the end of the day, and you have to remember who your audience is and really like make sure your brand is focused. And I had to do a lot of like reflecting and revising when it came to like the designs to make sure that, okay, I'm designing something creative, something new and something fresh, something that people would want to buy, but I still am staying like true to the customer, which, you know, is a very, you know, everyday like college girl, you know, so that's important to remember as well, not to like not do anything too crazy trendy, so that you would not be scared off and stuff like that, and also nothing too complicated in terms of the fabrication, the construction, because the price point isn't as high as like, you know, Marchesa was, where the gowns are like $5,000, you know. So there were a lot of different things to consider, but my favorite part was like creating that intern project and being able to really just put like all of my like the stuff that I learned in school like to use in a very extremely practical way.
Right. Would you go back if you had a chance to VS Bank?
Yeah, I was supposed to intern this summer, but unfortunately the internship was canceled, like a lot of people's were. So yeah, I would totally go back if I had the chance.
We're all in this together. How did that song go? I forget. Was it High School Musical or something? I forget where it was.
Yeah, I think that was it. Oh my gosh, I went through a phase when I was obsessed with that too as a kid.
Right now, you're learning a lot about like 3D apparel design, and you have a certification in browseware. What is it about, and what are you actually learning in it?
So Browseware is an extra course that I took on the side. It's a non-credited course, so unfortunately I had to pay extra for that on top of all my other classes, but it was extremely, extremely useful. I had a professor, I was first introduced to 3D design in like the apparel space from my professor in 4th semester, and at the time, like, I only knew about technical flats, so this was like a totally new area that like nobody had ever talked to me about. I'd never learned about it before, and like that was like her whole master's thesis, so like that was what she was studying and like working on and all of that. So to me it sounded so like ahead of the curve and like super like
futuristic.
Yeah, right, it sounded so like unattainable and just like so, yeah, so it's definitely like way ahead in the future. And I was like, oh my god, this is like really cool, but I can't like picture like using this technology like anytime soon. But then I learned more about it, and like the more I delved in the digital side, I realized how important it was to have such like a strong foundation in that. Yes, so
software
important.
gang.
So yeah, I looked more into it, and then I decided to learn the program because I realized like a bunch of big companies are starting to use this program and 3D design in general. So I just wanted to be on top of all of that, since my school wasn't offering like anything within the curriculum for fashion design anyway. It's because it was used more for tech design before that. So yeah, I decided to take the course, which basically like you can create or like upload a pattern, which is like that's like I guess
the framework, I would say.
Yeah, the framework, the plan, or like for all the pieces.
It's like the recipe.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And like so you can upload your pattern into the program, and that will give you all the pieces to make the garment. And then with using that program, you can like sew it up basically, and like input different fabrics and stuff that you can scan in, and it's like you can input like the fabric physics, which like show you how it like drapes on the garment, drapes on a person too. So you upload that and you can sew it up in the program, and then it shows up on the avatar, and you can do like a lot of like fit changes and stuff. So yeah, so it's like really great how you can eliminate so many steps of, you know, sending the pattern to the factory,
cool.
having them make it, having it come back wrong or something, and then you're like having to keep like sending like samples back and forth. But with the 3D program, you can just like do it all in one go, and you'll probably still have to do like 1 or 2 samples just to make sure everything's okay, but it eliminates a lot of that excess, you know, waste. Yeah, a lot of waste, and the carbon footprint, and just it helps like a lot with speeding the whole process up, so you get like a more accurate reading of the market as well. So it's just like a really great, sustainable, efficient new way of working, but companies are like slowly starting to integrate it in because it is such a different way to work compared to what we're normally used to. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it probably saves costs too, right? Because less waste.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, but it's definitely something new that we all have to learn. And especially with the pandemic, it's been really useful for companies to use that instead of, since they don't have access to, you know, the office or the samples or the factories or anything like that. So I'm so glad I took the course and I learned that. It was kind of hard to juggle all of it that semester, but I'm really, really glad that I took it like just in time.
I definitely think that you're far ahead of the curve. Like, because you said that companies are slowly adopting it, right? This will probably be like something that they'll be looking for as like a standard later on. So you're well ahead of the competition in that regard. I don't think many people in your field have used it, right?
Not a ton. Like, I've like introduced like a bunch of my friends to it and trying to get them like to start doing it too, so we can all like be in this together. But also, you know, I want everyone to like learn this cool technology because it's amazing. Yeah, not a lot of people knew about it at all. Like, it's not something that a lot of professors talked about. But right now with the pandemic, like I mentioned before, it's all speeding up. Everyone's adopting it so much more quickly. So it's really, it's showing how important that technology is and how important it is to learn that software, not necessarily just like Browseware, but I'm about to start to learn how to use Clo 3D, which is like another program that is a bit more user-friendly and a bit cheaper too. So yeah, it's definitely a really important skill that I hope that people start to learn, and it's definitely where the industry is moving.
Who are those developers making that software? I want to meet them. Sounds super helpful.
I think I heard that like Chloe was it like was born out of like a video game.
Really?
Like, designer's
So
situation.
cool.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
But
that.
yeah, I feel like
100% I can see that.
with like the avatars and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure who made them, but yeah, it's really cool.
And like, do you feel that these certifications are really important for like new fashion design interns that are coming in? Like, let's say 5 or a couple years more down the future.
I don't think the certifications are super important. It's more like what skills you have. Like if you learned like 3D design like on your own, like a certificate isn't gonna like validate that skill like a lot more. It's really about the work that you've done. So like for us, like having a really strong portfolio, having that especially like available on your website is really like important, especially now, because normally we'd be like carrying around our portfolios with our different projects and stuff and bringing that to interviews and all of that, but having all of your information online just like shows the employer like everything they need to know about you, pretty much, like thought process through like journals and stuff like that, but also just like the kind of designer you are, like your aesthetic and your sensibilities and stuff like that. So yeah, it's more about the work that you do as opposed to like what fancy like certifications you have. For me, I just took it because that was the only way I could learn that program.
Definitely. Are you going to be doing any internships for the fall then?
Yeah, I'm going to be interning at Stoll, which is really exciting for me because at school, like everything's going to be remote. So I'm excited to get the hands-on experience at the company that's created the software that we're going to be learning. So that one is like where we like make like a knit program with all different stitches and all that. I don't know how to use it yet, obviously, but to my knowledge, like you hook it up to the machine and like, you know, with all the yarns and everything, with that like knit program, you can basically just like create the garment, swatch, whatever it is that you need to do. It takes a while to knit, but I'm just really excited to be able to get some hands-on experience with that and see some like real like knit programmers like doing work. And like being able to like sit on any like client meetings and stuff, which is really exciting too. So yeah, just like learning more about knitting is going to be really cool.
Sounds super awesome. You know, being a student at FIT in fashion design, what's the perspective on designing for luxury brands versus mass market?
I think a lot of people like, and like myself included, like look down on like mass market and kind of like brushed it off as an option going in, just because I mean everyone sees like the pretty fancy things and they want to gravitate towards that. So yeah, that was definitely something that changed for me as well, like when you open your eyes to like all the other different areas of the industry and like you think like mass market, you have a much bigger audience. You're designing for, it's a lot more accessible to people too, whereas luxury, it's like a smaller market too because it's so expensive, but you like get the chance to be a bit more creative. So there's some trade-offs, and it just kind of like depends on like what you want to do, I suppose.
So, you know, in terms of your specialization in knitwear, would that be more for mass market?
It honestly could go either way.
A hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could go like really like super high ends, like $2,000 sweaters, but I could also go somewhere like a little bit more accessible too. So it's a versatile degree, so, and specialization, I mean. So I'm really glad I went that route and like tried to acquire that extra skill set.
Right, I think that's super cool. Being versatile is the key. What are some things that you've learned so far from being in the fashion industry?
I think it's super important to really stay up to date on everything that's going on, in terms of like the new trends and stuff, and like whatever runway shows, like Fashion Week and everything, what everyone's making, and just being aware of like the market and, you know, online shopping, I guess, since we can't really be in the stores right now, but just being aware of like what people are putting out is really important, because you just need to know like what kind of audience you're designing for and all of that, and who's your competition. But it's also really important to, like, with all this new technology too, it's always really important to, like, always be learning and trying to, I think that's just, like, the best way to protect yourself as well in an industry that's constantly moving. And you never know, like, what could happen too, especially with COVID and seeing, I mean, in all industries, but, like, people getting laid off and stuff. I think, just having a strong skill set and, like, being really up to date on everything is really important, and just being aware of, like, all news in general is, like, a good idea, because it will come back to, like, affect fashion somehow. So yeah, that's what I suggest.
Right. How do you keep up to date?
With my school, they give us subscription, I guess, to a bunch of different like trend forecasting services. So, like, Fashion Snoops, WGSN are, like, some big ones, but and, like, WWD, just to get more news about, which is Women's Wear Daily, just to get, like, really, like, current news on what's going on in the industry. WWD and Business of Fashion are the ones that are more accessible to people who don't have these subscriptions to these fancy trend forecasting services, because they are extremely expensive. But yeah, those are the main ones that I use to stay up to date with what's going on.
Especially, like, since you're staying up to date of the fashion industry and you also have internship experience, like, do you see some misconceptions that are ongoing within the fashion industry right now?
I think, like, the biggest one is people think it's, like, super glamorous and super creative and all of that. But again, at the end of the day, it's a business. So there's a lot of, like, a lot more, like, paperwork, I suppose.
Yeah, bureaucracy, right?
For sure. Yeah. Always there. So, and it's also, like, you need something to send to the factories to make your clothes. So you can't just, like, leave it as a cool drawing, So that is a big one that I think is, like, a misconception for that some people have, whether they're from the outside or, like, about to start in the industry, and they don't really, like, have the work experience or the knowledge about what fashion design really is.
Mm-hmm. I also find, like, the people are so have so much more of a say of, like, how fashion is influenced nowadays, especially with celebrities and everything, and especially with, like, social media trends. Like, do you see, like, several social media trends, like cancel culture, affecting the fashion industry? And can that be, like, a little bit too ugly at times?
I guess, like, cancel culture is pretty prevalent. I would say, like, with big companies though, as opposed to, like, individual people, it doesn't, like, shady stuff that they've done gets exposed all the time, but a lot of these big corporations still, like, make it through all the scandals. So sometimes it does, like, have a big effect on them. But sometimes people realize, oh, the garment workers aren't being paid properly, but I'm just going to turn a blind eye to it as the consumer. So, yeah, I think that it happens, but it doesn't cancel, like, individual people the same way that it does with big corporations.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally see that. Like, for example, I'm from Bangladesh, right? So, and my dad's village is right near, like, not next to, but, like, very close to the garment factory that burned down, like the Rana Plaza incident. So I know, like, from, like, my experience, like, those countries are so corrupt because, like, those factory owners don't pay their workers, and it should really be up to the fashion industry companies, like, their due diligence to make sure that they are hard on that. But, like, yeah, as you said, like, some industries might turn a blind eye or something. But I feel like addressing it and putting more corporate pressure on them would probably, like, be like one kind of solution. So I definitely think, like, people are starting to be more aware about this stuff. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, in regard to, like, fast fashion and stuff too, I don't think that we should be, like, shaming people for buying fast fashion, because, like, these fast fashion companies, their regular prices, some of them are, like, pretty expensive already, It's
gotten a lot better.
So, and, like, those, but, like, these garment workers, like, they do need the job too, but they need to be treated properly. So that transparency and, like, these brands, like, yeah, I agree, like, they need to really vet the factories that they're working at just to make sure that everyone is being treated properly, because it might not be their fault that, that factory's doing some shady stuff and not treating them well, but it's their responsibility to kind of check up and make sure that their supply chain and all of that is ethical. So I think though, like, not necessarily cancel culture, but with a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement like happening right now, and companies like, I guess, being exposed for not treating their employees of color like properly. I think it's a good thing that is like being shown too, because like a lot of these companies will have like very like diverse looking runways, ads and stuff, but then you find out behind the scenes it's very white or something like that. These brands aren't, like I mentioned, like they're still gonna survive, but it's I think it's really great that like the consumer is more aware of what's going on too, so they can make their decisions. And obviously, again, I don't think cancel culture is like constructive, but I think that if a company can like see what they're doing wrong, and they can like try to improve, that can't happen overnight, but if they like make a commitment, that's a good thing.
So we got to know you a little bit, gotten to know your background a little bit. Of course, now it's time to play our signature rapid fire round game.
Okay.
Rafid and I will ask you some questions, and I will time you. You have 5 seconds to answer each question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Not really, but let's go.
All right. What was your first piece of clothing that you created?
That shirt in my Algonquin class.
Nice. What's your favorite clothing store?
Oh my god. Oh, that's so hard. Thrift stores?
Too late.
I don't. Oh my god, that was actually. Yeah, sorry.
Thrift stores? That's it. That's your favorite?
Yeah, there's this thrift store in New York called Beacon's Closet. They have a few locations, but they have like designer stuff that's like secondhand. So it like when it's thrifted, it's like fast fashion prices pretty much. So a bit more accessible. So yeah, I like checking them out. Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite food spot in New York?
Bengal Indian food. You know that place.
No. She got it. No, she said Bengali. She said Bengali food. I give it to her.
Oh my god.
She said Bengali food. It's respect.
That place is so good, and it's close to my apartment. I love it.
How biased.
Juliana is a woman of culture, okay? She understands. Bengali food in New York is the best.
Pretty solid.
Next question. What do you always carry on you when you go out?
My card holder with all of my ID and my like Metro pass and everything. Metro card.
That was fast. That was so fast. What the heck?
Yo, I completely understand though. Like sometimes, like I don't usually walk around with a purse and I have like 50 things in my hands all the time. It's so hard.
Yeah, card holder, phone,
like
and
holder.
So useful.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. This might be a little bit more harder. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Creative, hardworking, and responsible.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I think.
Yeah, we can see that.
That third one could have been better, but like.
We can definitely. I can attest to that.
Next question. If you went back in time to talk to your younger self, what would you tell her?
Like getting a visa in the U.S. is harder than you think.
Oh my god.
Good advice.
Honestly, Dorita, that's gonna be the sneak peek. Just that. Not even about the internships. Just that.
Yeah.
What good advice. And I was expecting you to take more time on that one because that's really hard. But I really like how you just got it.
She's not like Lucy.
That's like been. Especially since I'm graduating like pretty soon, I'm just like, oh my god, like this is coming out. Sure. This is something I have to think about. So
Juliana,
New York is great. I want to be able to stay.
Okay, what was the last book you read?
Oh gosh, I'm reading On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous right now, but I haven't finished it yet. If that counts.
Nice.
Sort of half a.
What's it about?
It's about this Vietnamese, like a young Vietnamese guy, and he's queer, and he's writing to a letter to his illiterate mother, and it's sad, but it's a nice read, and it's been like on so many like bestseller lists, so I wanted to check it out. And yeah.
Cool. Next question. Do you have any tattoos?
No. I wanted one. Like, I wanted so many when I was like 17. I was like, oh my gosh, when I turn 18, I'm gonna get one. I'm very glad I did not do that because I don't really have any interest in getting one right now.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think like, a lot of people go through that phase. Either they go through it And then get more tattoos? Or
Yeah.
just be like, thank God I didn't go down that route. What about you, Rafid? What do you think of tattoos?
Haram. I'm kidding.
Good point.
No, not actually, but like honestly, okay. The thing about tattoo with me is that like, okay, I tend to like things for a while, but then afterwards I get over it. So if I tattoo something on myself, and then when I'm like 80 and it's still there, and I'm like, why the hell is this here? It's gonna be like so. I don't know. I just don't want anything permanent on my skin.
Yeah, because
is essentially what I say.
Yeah, because you might always change your mind.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
That's why I always say water tattoos. They don't hurt as much. They're really
Water tattoos.
They're really friendly.
Tattoos, yeah.
They do the job just right. Okay, so
True.
and removing them is not a pain. You just need a rub in the shower.
Yes,
That's all.
and not expensive at all, which is good.
That was awesome. Thank you for playing.
Of course.
So.
Alright, we have another game.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I know that if we did like this like this rapid fire round every time, it's gonna get boring for the audience. So we try to spice things up this time. And I know that Juliana is a big fan of Taylor Swift.
We can say moderate to make me seem more safe.
The biggest one in
But
my
yes,
grade. The biggest one in my grade. I can say that.
Okay. Perhaps.
So what we're gonna do, I don't know if do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a little game, and basically
No,
you're gonna have
are you gonna make me name the
seconds,
designers?
and you have you have seconds. You have 7 seconds, and you have to
Because
guess.
I don't know all of them.
You have to guess the year which that clothing is from. So I'm gonna time you, and then Doreena's gonna describe the dress for the audience first, and then you answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's gonna explain the dress so that way the audience knows what the hell they're looking at, and the dresses are all gonna be in the description if you guys want to check them out. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, am I answering before she describes or after?
After.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're all dresses from that Taylor Swift has worn, just to give you some context.
Uh-huh.
All right. So, first dress or first outfit, it's black and white. It's a deconstructed short suit worn by Taylor Swift. What year is it from?
This was 2020.
Jesus, I am so impressed that you actually got it.
Well, maybe because it says NME Awards 2020.
Oh no, I didn't
That
see
might have helped a little bit. But I can picture her face and I remember this outfit.
Yo, I didn't
Okay.
see it when I put the picture up. Y'all are too smart.
This was like winter, I think, of this year, yeah. You know, when we were still going out.
Dorina, you want to give a little drum roll for the next one?
Okay, let's see if you guys can hear this.
All right. Okay, this is the next one.
So this one is a dress. It's blue with... It's a floral gown. It's blue and yellow. Worn by Taylor Swift. What year is it from?
I think this was this year's Golden Globes.
Yeah, you're right.
When did Cats come out? Yes, for Cats. When she did that thing.
Damn.
Jeez.
I told you, she's good. She's too good.
You know, there was actually one time where my professor had like, it was a fashion history class, and she put up a picture of Taylor Swift for like, to show like a trend that was happening in like the late 2000s or something. And she was like, I think this dress, this outfit was from like 2010 or something. And I was like, no, it was like 2009. But anyway, didn't actually say that. But it's happened before in class, apparently.
Like I was telling Rafil, like there is no way someone's gonna remember the year.
No, I
that
know
those
this.
dresses were
I-
worn.
Well,
I
this has
know.
only been 2, so.
I know this. I know Juliana, okay? I know she should get some of them. Or most of them. All right.
All right.
Let's
Yeah.
hope I get like another one, maybe.
All right. Get ready. Drum roll, Dorina.
Yeah, next one. All right. So this one, I like how you already know. So this one is a navy asymmetric jumpsuit. What year is it from?
This was from 2019 and for her Women in Music at the Billboards.
Yeah,
it was like
actually.
it was a separate event, not at the Billboard Music Awards, but
Yeah.
she gave a really great speech, so I highly suggest.
Yeah, I think that one's iconic for sure.
Yeah, a nice like 15-minute TED Talk. It was great.
All right. Dorina,
Next one. Alright, so this one, it's a black dress, a little see-through. It's an off-the-shoulder dress. What year is it from?
I think this was 2018 Golden Globes after party.
Time's up.
But I could be wrong.
Oh, but she got
What
the
year
year.
did you say?
Oh, it was a Vanity Fair
Is it?
after party. I said
No,
2018.
this is...
I
No.
know.
Nope, this one is
2017?
the... Yeah,
19?
2019
Really?
Golden Globes.
Oh no. Close enough. It's okay. Oh right, she changed dresses. Okay.
One
yeah.
down.
It's okay.
It's okay. You got most of them. Yeah.
Alright, drum roll.
All right. This one.
This one is literally a disco ball dress. What year is it from?
I think it was 2019. Yeah. American Music Awards 2019. Before voting for the
Oh my god,
whatever.
I like how you got the award show right. You just got the
Oh
year
no,
wrong.
2018.
It's
Oh right,
2018 American
that would
Music
make
Awards.
sense because that was before the. Yeah, that makes sense. Never mind. It's okay.
But you are so good. What the
All right.
heck?
At least I know the award show.
Next one. This one is a long black dress with a plunging neckline. What year is it from?
I think this is 2016.
Yo, that's correct.
What?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yay!
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This was a good
Yeah,
look. I
that
enjoyed
looks
this
beautiful.
one.
That looks hot.
It's actually for the Vanity Fair Oscar party.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she was wearing like vintage someone. I forgot. Vintage Versace maybe?
Sh-
Don't really remember.
It says Alexander Vautier. Not that I know.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Sophie Turner like wore that dress recently too. It looked really great on her.
Cool. But yeah, that was very, very impressive. Like considering
Thanks.
all you did.
Oh, okay. I got like what 3? I think 3.
No, you got only one. You got one
Okay.
and a half wrong. I would say.
All right. Thank you for giving me that.
But yeah, that was super impressive. Thank you for playing that.
Of course. Thanks for putting that together.
No worries, no worries. So, let's talk a bit about your projects. So, you do a lot of different projects on your website, and they look really cool. Tell us about your CFDA project for 2020. What's CFDA?
CFDA, it's the Council of Fashion Designers of America. And they have like a big competition every year nationwide for like all the fashion design students in my year, 3rd year. And yeah, it's incorporated into our curriculum to design like a collection for that project. And it's all like just like drawings and showing your design process and everything. And yeah, it's just a part of our class, but you can also like, if you make it far enough, you can submit that into the big competition. I unfortunately didn't make it that far, but I was one of the semifinalists at my school, so that was a little accomplishment for me. But yeah, it was a big undertaking for sure because you wanted it to be like as close to perfect as possible, and everything kind of got messed up with the pandemic, but we all pulled through, and I was proud of the project I made in the end.
Yo, that sounds really cool. You should definitely be proud of yourself. And like you mentioned, you translated one of the looks to 3D design and created a capsule collection with it. What was it like working on that collection?
It was really fun, yeah. And so for the 3D one, I used like one of the figures for that was a part of my collection for that assignment in my 3D class. So it was really great to have like everything kind of connect. And since the CFDA project was such a big undertaking for us for that semester, the professors like kind of let us use the same idea for different classes as well. So it was great to be able to kind of like dilute it down to a capsule collection that could be like sold in stores and just make you think like, okay, if I only have 6 pieces to like tell my story as a designer and like what that collection's about, like which pieces would I pick, what would make the most sense for like the store or whatever that I'm trying to sell to. So it was good to like have a more, I guess, technical and a bit more of a technical way of looking at a more abstract like project. and like having like all the swatches and like putting like the gauge of the knit swatches and showing all the flats and the different colorways and stuff like that it would be offered in. So it was good for me, like I really like how in school like we get to do whatever we want and it's super open-ended and you really can design whatever you want to your heart's content. But it's also great to have like projects that are a bit more practical and realistic to balance that out and be able to, so you can like rein yourself in a little bit and just make something that will sell essentially.
That sounds super cool. What brand was the collection for?
It was for this concept store called 10 Corso Como. They have a location in New York and a couple others around the world, like I think in Seoul and then in Milan as well. And I think I'm missing a spot, but they have like really cool up and coming designers, or like if the designers are a bit more established, they have like just interesting like kind of quirky pieces to showcase, which I think is really awesome.
That sounds super cool. And being like a semi-finalist, that's a huge deal, honestly.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh damn.
You have a portfolio project inspired by Anthropocene. What is that, and what's the thought process behind that project?
That was a project that was actually inspired by an exhibit that I saw at the National Art Gallery in Ottawa.
In Ottawa?
Yeah, in Ottawa.
Cool.
Little Ottawa. And it was, I believe all of the artists were Canadian, and it was basically about this geological era where humans have the biggest impact on the earth. And it wasn't necessarily like pointing fingers and being like corporations do better or stuff like that. It was just kind of showcasing the beauty and the simultaneous like horror of like what humans have done to the planet and how things have changed. But some of these like photos were really breathtaking and really beautiful, and you couldn't like look away from it. But at the same time, you're like, wow, like we messed things up a little bit there. So it was a really interesting and thought-provoking exhibit that I really liked. And I just took some scenes from like some photographs that I really liked of some different landscapes that they explored, and then I also like watched the documentary and kind of got like some more research there and just translated those nature scenes into garments. So yeah, that was like how the idea was born, and then it was really fun to try to replicate these different like textures and stuff in real clothes, because obviously it's a much more like abstract concept. So like for like wood kind of like looking things, I found like this cool like fur that like was painted in a certain way to kind of like look like tree bark, which I know sounds kind of crazy when you can't see it.
No, because I've seen it on your website, right? It's on your website, and it is so cool seeing how you just took a picture of a landscape and translated that to a piece of garment, like fabric, that looked similar. It was super creative and super awesome to see.
Yeah, it was really great. I really enjoyed that project a lot.
Yeah, talking about your process of actually making that, we want to know like what your thought process is or what goes behind like designing pieces in fashion.
For me, like I always try to stay like inspired all the time, and it can be like as small as, you know, following like some of my favorite designers on Instagram and seeing like what kind of archives they're like digging through to get their inspiration. Also like, you know, keeping my eyes open when I'm walking down the street. And it's like I like to go to a lot of museums and stuff, so I get inspired by some of the art there. But then a lot of people think that, you know, it's all just kind of fun and it kind of just all like you throw it together and it just happens, but it takes a lot of like work and discipline to like take that idea and then really like try to hone in on like what the key like aspects you want to focus on and how you want to translate that into clothes. So you could take an abstract idea and then like figure out like with that like technical knowledge that you have of fashion to like design something really cool. And then so yeah, I do like a lot of research about what I want to do and like pull like lots of references, and then I go ahead and like pick like swatches or like yarns or whatever I want to use to translate that garment, just like you can imagine more of like what it would be like. And then like I do a lot of thumbnails to just kind of like flesh out ideas and see like just kind of like let my mind flow and figure out like what designs I kind of want to explore, and then I narrow all that stuff down into a collection and then draw it out like properly with flats and all that stuff. And that's basically like how our projects are structured at school.
That sounds super awesome. Like, I didn't know there was so much, so much that goes on behind creating a piece of clothing.
Yeah, and I didn't either, too, until I came to school, so yeah.
What are you working on these days?
I've honestly, like, just been, like, relaxing with my family, because I don't get to see them very often because I'm studying, like, further away. So yeah, I've been home since March, and like I had a couple months to finish up school and my internship and everything, but I have just like been kind of relaxing, but also figuring out what school is gonna look like in the fall. I just bought a knitting machine, so I'm anxiously waiting on that. But I've started to like fiddle around with Clo a little bit, which is the other 3D program. So that's what I'm trying to learn. But otherwise, honestly, I've just been like having a very like chill time with my family while keeping up with the news and everything going on, but not doing anything too drastic.
So now that you have, experience in the industry, what are some of your criterias when you're looking for a fashion company to work for?
For me, my professors have always said, ask about how the company's doing financially and stuff, like whether you find out
very important.
Yeah, whether you find that out like through the interview, which I don't know, I'm not sure how to word that question like properly yet, but like finding that part out and like doing your own research obviously on the company. For me, it's important to work for a company that like is strong in the digital space, because like especially like with Corona, like we see how important like having all of everything digitized really is, and like being ahead of the curve with like that 3D technology and other stuff like that, so that you can like work from home, work remotely if like something like this happens. So that's definitely something really important for me to consider when I'm looking for an internship and I guess a job later on too. And like ideally, a company that kind of fits with my aesthetic and that I've admired and stuff like that. But obviously that can't always happen, because you have to kind of put your own personal preferences aside when you're designing anyway.
Right, for sure. Speaking of interviews, what types of questions do you get asked?
It definitely just starts like normally like with like walk me through your resume or tell me about yourself, that wonderful one. But then we have to show our portfolio, which is like a really big and important aspect as well. So like we usually like talk through it a little bit, and they'll have like questions about, maybe like a specific swatch or a specific design or something like that. So we get asked about that, and with my portfolios, I try to like show something kind of abstract, but then like something a bit more like tame too, to kind of show like my range. But also like it's important to keep in mind like what kind of company you're applying to as well, and trying to kind of like fit with their aesthetic and like where they are like in the market as well. So yeah, I try to be varied with that, and then I show my journal and stuff too, just so they can get like a better idea of how I think. Some other questions, the typical like what's your strength, what's your weakness, there are some very like basic questions as well. But then like some companies will ask you to do like a mini project for them as a part of the interview process, so you have to like design like a little collection for them and show like your research and all of that. So one question that I thought was like really great that I was asked once was, I had designed like a small collection for this company, and they were like, okay, so what if I told you that dress was too expensive? Like, how would you change it? And
oh my God.
So, which is like a question that would come up like all the time. Like, which compromises will you take basically to still be able to deliver that like vision that you have, but stay within like the cost framework or whatever. So yeah, I was like,
this is so relatable to tech.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, so I'd take out like the volume here, I'd make it like shorter, I'd remove buttons here, whatever. So it's important to be thinking about that stuff too. And then sometimes they'll just ask like, oh, do you know how to do this? And do you know how to like, if like an armhole was like too big or whatever, or like it was kind of gaping on the side, would you know like what the pattern fix would be, kind of stuff like that. So yeah, they just kind of like inquire about your skills.
Okay, random question though. What's the fix when you have a hole in your shirt? How do you fix that?
Oh no, I meant like if the armhole was like kind of
like too big.
It was just like off from your body,
yeah.
So like you just have to like close it up basically. Sorry, it's like way easier if like there's a visual. This is a very visual thing. But you basically just make like that circle that smaller. So yeah, you have to cut into the pattern and kind of like, yeah, do all that. But we don't have to like, that's more technical design that makes all those changes specifically. That question I was asked when I was doing like a technical design internship, but it was a smaller company, so there was like overlap with like some design too, but we worked closely with the pattern maker. So yeah, it was a really great experience.
When fashion is it asks like super hard questions like software engineering, damn.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's pretty impressive like what you had to go through.
Yeah, a lot of things are
Yeah.
very relatable.
It's kind of odd how closely related the two are, but you know
Yeah.
it's both design though, because software you design software and fashion you design
Exactly.
clothing, right? So really flexes your like is it called left brain or is it right brain? Like left brain is analytical.
Left.
It's the left
Okay,
one.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely flexes your creativity muscle in your brain. So yeah.
Oh, that's the right brain. I'm sorry.
That's the right brain. I think you're trying to say it's
Yeah.
both. Basically
Okay.
both.
Perfect.
Got you.
All right. So, are there any last tips you have for any of our listeners that are watching?
If you're in high school, always be a sponge, always be curious, and try to soak up as much knowledge as you can get. I know that like the high school options, like the classes might make it seem like your options are very limited, but there's a whole other world out there, and yeah, there's just so many careers that you like never would have heard of before, which I hope, with this podcast, obviously, that helps some people find out some more career paths that they wouldn't have heard of before. But yeah, always be curious, appreciate your time with your parents at home. And yeah, I think it's always great to always be learning. So that's my big takeaway, I guess.
Thank you, Juliana, for being on today's episode. Rafid and I were from the tech industry, so it was super interesting hearing you talk about this whole other world. I think it's nice to get a real perspective on the fashion world and what goes on behind it from what we see on social media. I mean, especially when all of you know is like through the movie Devil Wears Prada, And of course, watching some of the work that you did on your website, some of the portfolios that you built, I have newfound respect for all those artists and designers because so much work goes through making a final look. And of course, thank you for sharing your tips on how to navigate university, even high school, listening to your journey during high school about your extracurriculars and the struggles that you went through, those challenges that you faced. You've put a lot of hard work through it, and I think that's something that a lot of listeners can take something away from.
Of course, yeah. It was so great talking to you guys, and thanks so much for having me. If anyone has any questions at all, like, feel free to reach out. I know that like the fashion industry can seem like super scary, or like New York can seem super scary if that's like something that you want to explore. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mm-hmm. If you'd like to get to know more about Juliana, definitely do check her website out at julianabui.com. And she's on LinkedIn, so be sure to reach out to her. She's super talented and super nice, and I can 100% attest to this. So everything will be in the description below, so be sure to check her out.
Absolutely. Thank you for offering that. And be sure to check out Capital Interns on IG, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as at Capital Interns. The giveaway contest is still open. Check us out for details. And you can also listen to us on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. The
next guest is a very good friend of mine, and I guess a lot of the audience, including Juliana, could guess who it is. But she's in civil engineering, goes to Queen's University, and she's a co-op project manager for the Ottawa Ministry of Transportation. Stay tuned as we delve into the program, internships, and passions here on Capital Interns. Bye. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Wiping your slate clean ain't so easy.